I'll just get started then. Bangladesh and eastern India sit on top of the Ganges Delta, which effectively has a naturally occurring aquifer that has arsenic fluoride and other impurities. After Bangladesh's independence, organizations drilled over 10 million tube wells without testing the quality of water. By the year 2000, they found 30% of the water was contaminated with arsenic. That was what led to the World Health Organization stating that this was the biggest mass poisoning in human history. Naturally, I simply wanted to see from the touch of my phone the quality of water being supplied to my family from the distribution network, no matter which part of the world I was tuning in from. This desire led to the inevitable birth of Hydroquo Plus. Hydroquo Plus is focused on delivering water intelligence to drive overall safety and availability with actionable insights in real time. The idea is to eventually, we hope to prevent and predict disease outbreaks in relation to waterborne diseases, if you will, to ensure water security for the years to come. If you quickly look up the world's water supply, you come across these statistics. Less than 0.5% of the world's fresh water is available for consumption. Furthermore, decaying pipelines and aging infrastructure account for $200 billion of annual losses. Asia traditionally has uneven distribution of water resources, making 60% of the global population. It only has access to 33% fresh water. Replacing service lines would cost billions and is not a feasible option. Thus, it requires strategic planning and prioritization. So this is where we come in. We've put together a unique industry-first approach to tackle the problem at scale. Hydroquo Plus combines hardware, software with bidirectional connectivity to automate water monitoring, testing, alerting, and data analysis. The Hydroquo Plus vertically integrated solution enables water operators to forecast events in relation to water efficiency and quality in real time. Our existing deployments have automated water sampling for 200,000 residents of the municipality of Dhaka. We've driven down the cost of lab sampling almost by 500x, and now we're in the process of scaling.
Has Hydroquo developed the hardware and the software, or are you just an integrator and service provider? Is there any IP for your side?
Yeah, so essentially we could not develop the hardware because you need UV node certification. Then you need all sorts of more or less the high standards when it comes to contact tracing. So we outsourced it, essentially our first design, but then we underwent different iterations through an engineering firm in Austria. And so since then, we've essentially started deploying that at scale. And we do have a data lake server where we store all our data, and it'll eventually turn into data warehouse. But the hardware we cannot essentially build in Bangladesh. Bangladesh does not have the capacity for it. You'll need at least $100 million in investments to be able to actually make these spectrophotometers to the scale that Suez will want, and then it cannot have any data drift. So there's all of these elements. So we didn't go into that. If we did, we would never come. This would never come into fruition. But we essentially kind of added with that partnership, and this happened in the process.
So essentially, this is a product and a service that you're providing, right?
Yeah.
And can you break down for B2G, B2B, and B2C that you have in plan out of the service, and what does that customer experience look like?
Yeah, sure. B2G, B2B, and B2C, we're still in the process of working towards it. That's more to do with water efficiency roadmap again. So with B2B, it's more or less like in sludge optimization, wastewater monitoring, hydrological modeling of critical resources. So they have access to all transparency. And I'll get that, kind of take you through that in a bit. Again, with Dhaka Wasa, more or less the KPIs that they want is fully automation of the district meter areas where we've deployed. Again, the modeling aspect of it as well, with GIS mapping, real-time analytics, water quality analytics, lab testing, and more or less like the entire process that has to be automated. And again, with North City, Dhaka North City, or municipal corporations such as themselves, like Raju or any of these organizations at scale would want their like rivers and lakes to be essentially restored, or in general monitored to make sure that they don't have any issues. With Department of Environmental Ministry, we're focusing on river water monitoring with the Burigonga cleanup project. So it's more or less, we cater to a large segment, while our immediate niche is that within the modeling and monitoring aspect of it. Anything around that we can, or essentially we can cater to at scale. And so like to give you like more or less a quick rundown of the modeling aspect, which we haven't shown. So essentially, let's say you want to be able to model the entire network of pipes. If there's an unconnected household, which is completely all the time continuously giving service requests, let's say, okay, I have this issue, I'm not getting the water. So through transparently integrating the entire infrastructure into our platform, you can say which house is connected and which house is not. And then you can obviously cross-reference it with the technical engineers who are on ground supporting it. You can also optimize leakage detection. Let's say what happens is whenever there's a leak burst or more or less a pipe burst, what they'll do, they'll be like, okay, I'm going to use an ultrasonic sonar to essentially see where there's like this leakage of noise coming from, and then isolate that to the problem. But we significantly have like 90% accuracy when we're kind of geolocating that. So to give you an example, again, back to the leakage thing. So essentially what would happen, they would do a what if scenario. They'll then isolate the problem here, like more or less here. And then through the metric that we have, we more or less cater to that immediate KPI, and then we isolate it with more or less 90% plus minus 10% inaccuracy. So yeah, so then this enables them to, let's say, instead of replacing the entire pipeline, which traditionally would have cost them like around 3-4 crores taka for maintenance as they would undertake. Now it's completely offset. And then again, production tubal optimization, when essentially if you take most of the data into our system and we automate the entire process and kind of visually assess them on a daily basis. Whenever there's low energy efficiency, that means less water is being pumped out of the pump station. So then we will optimize, or essentially whatever the instrumentation from the technical operators standpoint they need optimization with, we will tell them to advise them, essentially do that accordingly. And then again, kind of get that back to its efficiency state. So like energy analytics, more or less anything to do with that, we again do within the water management scheme. So hydro-informatics is essentially a broad field. It is computer modeling with the intersection of water management relating to critical resource infrastructure management and so on. So it's more or less, because we are a dynamic organization offering different product suite, we more or less can cater to a large segment of anything water related issue, especially in Bangladesh, since there is none at this scale or even to some degree being done. We can go and cater to that and essentially create that industry academic, more or less entity, that bidirectional, I would say, collaboration to more or less engage that in the most optimum outcome.
The challenge seems to be converting the need into effective demand, and the long procurement cycles for the primary or the largest potential customers is the B2G side, right? When the demand is created, what prospects or what protects Hydroquo from competition?
Right. So essentially what's happened, we've worked with this capacity building for sustainability, which has been trying to kind of do what we've been doing for almost last 5 years. And so they've kind of worked with us along the way to now essentially only use our technical specification for future tenders. So any tender or whichever tender will go up into the future, they'll have to kind of essentially address us. So the only problem we'll face is that all these high turnover tender companies that are going to engage in it either need to partner up with us for the technology, let's say, solution provider, or we essentially independently need to participate in the tender, but where we don't classify as a tender partner. So we need to kind of work around it either through JV contract or something else, but more or less we are a monopoly in terms of the specification. And even if like I've had, obviously, when I was starting off, when I was in my second year of university with the government project, I obviously had to face uncountable or like some things that I cannot even say, a lot of these bureaucracies from every aspect of competition. But over time, I realized that no matter how much they try, it can't happen, because more or less the technical specification I've introduced to Bangladesh and the partnership agreement that I have with my hardware manufacturer is pretty robust. And we have a 5-year manufacturer authorization certificate and a master franchise, if you will, to go on a project-to-project basis and kind of iterate on that. And this is what helps us to create more reference points and scale the entire operation up. Obviously, as you said, rightly pointed, that there's this issue with scalability because there's a long procurement process. So, but yeah, more or less because there would be that process of, let's say, assessing the situation, or more or less seeing whether it would be viable if it was only a concept that was being pitched. But we have the entire deployment ready as a site where people more or less try to validate that every now and then to see whether this can be actually scaled up. So having kind of gone through that kind of process of talking to as many stakeholders from different municipalities, DNCC, Department of Environmental Ministry, Raju, then Takawasa, Chirangwasa, I realized that there is an immediate need for it. So they will more or less, when they do go up, it'll immediately link back to our project, and we should have full transparency with future going on to the future projects. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.